right. Testing. Some guys out there already. C Farsight, Ultimaza, Black Rose. Welcome, guys. Welcome. And what I want to do, hang on a second. Before we get started, I just need to send myself a picture here. All right, sound is good. Okay, just give me a moment, guys. Daughter was giving me trouble, so I just running a little bit behind, but I didn't want to start late because, you know, people get upset about such things. So if you just give me 2 seconds. Oh, where did it go? Where did it go? Here it is. All right, there it is. Yes. Okay. Here it is. All right, welcome everybody to CanHammer TV. It is the day after yesterday. Yesterday, of course, was July 25th, and that was 9th edition launch day. Actually, you know what's funny? It was kind of anticlimactic because it seemed like 9th edition had already been fully out and was launched a long time ago. And so it was a little bit anticlimactic. And thanks to Dan, we had our demo copy of Indomitus like a week before, and which we've returned now, so thank you, Dan. And all the rules were already long out, all the points, so it seemed kind of anticlimactic. And then on top of that, the app came out, which was the last thing we were missing, and it was so crap that nobody could use it, and so it all kind of seemed anticlimactic. But we did do our launch day streaming extravaganza yesterday. We streamed 4 games. We played 6 or 7 games, and so it was great. It was we were at Chris's house. We were all responsibly distanced, and we'd filled in our surveys and all that stuff, and it was a great day and good to see guys again. And so we're going to talk about specifically my game against Grey Knights yesterday, but we're also going to talk just in general, because other than playing that one game, I have now witnessed over 10 games of 9th Ed now with various armies, so we can draw some conclusions about how we think it might play. And we had some pretty competitive players yesterday, ETC players, and good players, so I think we can draw some decent conclusions about how we think that we might play in 9th edition. So this is Tactica episode 31, and we're going to talk a little bit today about yesterday, basically. And I'm going to go over the list that I played, which I'm going to continue playing for a little bit, and why I played that list, what I was testing, and my conclusions, and then we'll go from there. Before we do that, a couple things to touch on. First of all, so it was revealed then that I am now currently hobbying on Agamata's bikers, or what I like to call dildo bikes. And these guys are pretty cool. These are amazing Forge-World models. I mean, the detail on the housings here are really quite amazing. You can't see it because it's prime black, but there's crazy detailing behind the guy on the seat there for some reason. Why there needs to be detailing there, I don't know. The weapons are cool. You get all weapons options, so it's not like Forge-World stuff where you have to buy all the different weapons options. You get all the weapons options in the box, and you get one in the box, which is probably why they're so expensive. But yeah, they're pretty cool models. These are just pretty standard kind of biker dudes on here. The biker dudes, of course, have more leather on their arms and on their legs than the normal custodian. And these guys are no different. The only difference is they have different thighs. They got like bags and packs or something on their thighs, so it looks a little bit different. But otherwise, they're pretty the same. And then their lances are super long. If you thought the old lances were obnoxious, these are even longer. But they are definitely a little bit more sturdy and a little bit more pointier. And they don't have like a power tip to them like the other bikers. Also, it clearly looks like they are holding the lances rather than being embedded into the lance like on the old Virtus Praetors. And actually, there's an option to model them without the lance, just two hands on the bike. So I guess maybe in 30K you can run them without the lance. But yeah, so of course, if you're going to get these guys, you must magnetize the lance. Otherwise, you're going to kick yourself. And the bases, so it's interesting, they come with those round bases that the Virtus Praetors also come on. But the Virtus Praetors also come with bike bases. These guys only come with the round bases. I actually asked GW and they said you can use whatever base you like. And so I'm going to take some of my bike bases off the Virtus Praetors because I have 18 of them. And then I'm just going to use them for this so I don't have to rebase these guys. So that's pretty cool. Otherwise, it's really obnoxious. It's a huge round base, and then these things just spin around on it. Like you can like do it like a pinwheel. It goes. It's really it's a pain in the ass to play with. So I'd rather stick my old Virtus Praetors bases in. They're solid. You can lift them up in one piece, and it's way easier. So anyway, so this is basically a Caladius tank squashed together into a thin thing, and that's what you would end up with. And then you put a dude in the top. So you would take a Caladius, squash it sideways, and you end up with one of these. So it's got the same panels that, at the front and back, same panels as the Caladius tanks. So, they're actually pretty nice models. They've got multiple screens in there, and then there's a key, underneath the handlebar, there's like a keyboard. And so it's actually pretty nice. Really nice model. It literally is like a Caladius hot dog. That's right. Shout out to Diogo and Peter. The Falcon is here. Mr. Fantastic. Welcome, guys. And thanks for joining. Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk about was this. So these are the long-awaited, played before they were good Custodes t-shirts. This is basically a mock-up that they made, so this is what it's going to look like. A large symbol on the front, played Custodes before they were good on the back, and a CanHammer symbol on the left sleeve. All right, so so what's happening is they were going to be available to order from after the show. I'm going to put all the information on the Discord. So if you want information on how to order these without paying crazy shipping, you need to join the Discord channel. And there will be a channel visible there after this called Custodes T-Shirt Info. Okay? Don't comment on the channel. I think I turned it off, but don't comment on the channel. It's just an information page on how to get this merchandise. Okay? Basically, what we're trying to do is to save people a lot of shipping costs. Okay, so right now to ship from Toronto to Canada is $15, okay, which is a lot. The t-shirt itself is $25 Canadian, so $2 freedom dollars, but so it's $15 to ship to Canada right now, $25 to ship to the US, which is the cost of the t-shirt, and $50 to go across any ocean. So it's really not worth the shipping cost right now. So, but I want to get these shirts out to you guys. So what I have agreed with Raul and the Dream Team guys, of course, who are our big sponsors here, is I'm going to eat the cost of the shipping in exchange for patronage. All right, this is the only way I thought that we could try and offset the cost a little bit, but also just try and show patrons a little bit of benefit. So in order to get this shirt without paying the shipping costs, the information will be on the Discord. You will need to become a patron of CanHammer for 1 month, which is $5 Canadian. Okay, or it might be US actually because patrons US. But anyway, it's $5, and then you can quit. Okay, so basically, if you don't want to support us, that's perfectly fine. I don't expect anyone to stay. If you do stay, that's very much appreciated. But you can basically get it for $5 shipping, basically in effect. Okay, so what happens is when you go in to order your shirt from the Dream Tea website, you just need to tick on the local pickup, enter the office address of Dream Tea, which will be on the Discord post, and then they will hold those all aside, and then Raul's going to ship them all to me in a ship them all to me in a batch, and then I'm going to ship them out to everybody individually. So it might take shipping takes a long time right now too. So it may take a little bit of time to get your shirt, but you're going to save a crap ton in terms of shipping. Okay, so that's the only way we thought of how we could kind of work it out where people didn't have to pay stupid amounts for shipping. Because quite frankly, like, why would you buy a t-shirt for 25 bucks if you paid 25 bucks for shipping? That'd be silly. So that's what we're going to do. Instead of the t-shirt, if you just want to buy a CanHammer jersey, which I've always been up on the site, you can do that too, and I'll do the same shipping deal for people who just buy the jerseys too. Okay, the jerseys are not the Custodes, they're just our normal CanHammer jerseys, but you can get your name on the back and all that stuff. So if you want a jersey instead, or if you want both, then you'll get an even better deal for shipping, because I'll put them together. But we can do the same deal for shipping. Okay. We're not normally into selling a lot of merchandise, so this is kind of a one-off thing, and the timing is perfect, and so that's what we're gonna do. The other thing we are doing is we are updating our objective markers. So these are the old objective markers that are 3-inch radius, because we used to play to the middle, and obviously people who know about these know how awesome these are for playing in real life. But now the GW has come out and said they expect objective markers to be 40 millimeter diameter. Now we have to make these 40 millimeters diameter larger. So we are going to. So they're going to be, you saw in the stream, I've been using Charity Hammer ones because they have, they're the proper width for 40 millimeters. So what we're going to do is we're remaking these larger, and so they will be available on the Dream Tee website as normal. Lots of people have been buying them, and so the new larger ones will be available probably sometime next week. Okay. Okay. Venatari bases. This is what I did with my Venatari. I pinned them onto broken marble columns and of the same height, and so I do that instead of the stupid flying bases, because they are stupid. Yes, here you go. That's it. This column is just a plastic wedding cake decoration that I just cut with a saw, and then I just filled them with stuff, and so it looks like a broken column. There you go. So that's what I did for Venatari, and Bertha has the other pieces of the column on her base here. So there you go. Okay, so that's going to be the t-shirt. So if you don't remember that, you can always rewatch or just go to the Discord after the show. There's going to be a channel live there now, Custodes t-shirt info. It's all there. Tells you where to sign up for everything. And before I ship out the shirt, I'm going to make sure that you did patronage us for a month, paid your $5, and then I'll ship it out to you. Okay. If it starts to become way too expensive for me, I'm going to have to stop doing it. But for now, it's going to be okay. I don't think too many people are going to order the shirt. So there you go. All right, let's get rid of that now. All right, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to talk about my game versus Nick playing Grey Knights yesterday. And Nick's in the chat, so that's cool. First of all, it was I had planned to telestrator the game. But of course, as I said, I ran out of time. So let me see if I can pull it up right now. I'm going to set this up right now. So if you just give me 2 seconds. Okay. All right. Sweet. Okay. Here we go. Here we got the telestrator up. Okay. Can everybody see that? That's kind of the overhead view of the game table there. All right, and I'll be able to draw on it. Okay, so here we go. So this was a mission, I can't remember what mission it was now, retrieval mission. So this was 6 objectives. It's hammer and anvil, And Nick was over on this side, and he deployed first. He chose that side, and I was over on this side. These are all runes, and this was dense cover, and that's about it. So the objective primary was hold 1, hold 2, or hold more. And then for secondaries, I picked Abhor the Witch and Assassinate, which is basically like almost an auto 30 points against Grey Knights or any Psychic army. So it's very powerful, and that's actually a really good reason not to run an Inquisitor. And then I picked While We Stand, We Fight, which is always great for us because it's really hard to kill our stuff. So anyway, and Nick picked Linebreaker because he very cleverly knew that he could probably park a squad of strike squad there and a strike squad here, and I would not be able to do anything about it, and he could max Linebreaker, which he did end up doing. He also picked Deploy Scramblers, which is, of course, doing action here, and an action here, which, again, pretty straightforward with his strike squads. And then he picked Psychic Ritual, which is to do the ritual psychic action 6 inches in the middle, which probably was his mistake there on the secondaries. Because, you probably don't want to hang out here against Custodes. But live to learn. We're all just trying to see which secondaries are good and bad right now. So we don't really know, but yesterday taught us a lot. And for sure, against Psychic armies, Eldar, Grey Knights, Thousand Suns, the combo of Abhor the Witch and Assassinate is like an auto 20 to 30 points. So good enough reason not to take an Inquisitor, to be honest. Okay, so basically... me and Nick talked about this game afterwards, so and that was really great. And sorry, I'm covering up the chat now, so hopefully I'm not missing too many chats, but I'll check it every once in a while. So Nick's idea was, so you see he started to deploy his paladins here, so deep striking all his strikes, but he changed his mind. He decided to put the shooty paladin squad here and the harder to kill but less killy paladin squad there in an attempt to make me split. Okay, and in the old days I probably would have split. I would have taken the bait. Okay, but I hopefully don't do that very often anymore. And so what I decided to do, because I knew that I wasn't sure how powerful the shooting was going to be. I only heard rumors. I've never played Grey Knights before, so I set up behind this rune here. Okay, with my bikes, my Terminators were in deep strike, and wait and see what Nick does on his first turn. My intention was that I wanted to kill this unit first because they would be more threat to me than the less killy but harder to kill unit. And I would send Bertha this way just to tie these guys up for a little bit. Okay? And then the rest of my army, including my Terminators, would come this way and hit this unit, and he also put all his characters here. So that was definitely going to be the game plan. I also knew that to win primary, I needed to get onto this objective ASAP if I didn't get first turn, okay? And then hopefully onto this objective as my third, and then probably onto this with Bertha. So those were my 4 objectives I was planning to hold. If Nick dropped a strike squad here and a strike squad here, completely obscured, I just had to give him that max Linebreaker. There's nothing I can do about that. The strike squads, if they're hiding from me, they can't see me to smite me, so otherwise no threat, but they would just be getting Nick those points. So that's what I did. I just ignored those strike squads. So here I got my bikers all behind this obscuring rune. I've got my Melta dudes back here, and then I've got my characters here, and then I've got Bertha right there. And Nick has put all his characters here, his shooty paladins with the 4 side cannons there, and then his more invuln defensive paladins down there, and all the strikes in reserve. So the first turn was all about weathering the hit. So let's just fast forward a little bit. So Nick moves up a little bit, and then he ends up spending a whole bunch of CP and psychic powers to shoot as good as possible and astral aim and stuff like that. So he ends up splitting some of his shots into the bikes and some of his shots into these dudes. I think he should have just shot everything into one unit, but anyway, almost like a test shot, like shots off the bow. And with the combination of Transhuman and Grim Responsibility, I managed to just lose 1 bike and 2 wounds off a Guardian. So not bad. That kind of gave me the go-ahead that in my first turn, so when it comes to my first turn then, I have options. Okay, so yeah, so he moved his guys up here to get in range, and then after Astral Aim, of course, they can just move back, or I can't remember what spell that is. They get to shoot and move back into Psychic phase, so, you know, pretty crazy. Okay, so let's move forward a little bit. So coming into my first turn, I have 3 options. One is to sit here and do nothing, and just weather another turn of shooting. That is definitely one option, okay? The other option is to move up here, take some shots here, whittle them down, and then take the shooting back here, okay? That's the second option. The third option was to go this way, but that wouldn't stop them from shooting me, and then I'd be in contact with 2 Paladin units, so that was no good. And then the fourth option was to go up this way, and then I had the option of going either way. So I went back to my original plan, which was that I wanted to hold this side of the board and take out this unit and all the characters as a priority and just leave these guys down here. Now, if these guys decide to come across, then I'm kind of in it, but I would dangle Bertha this way just as a little bit of a bait. And then I'm going to leave my Melta guys back here, and they would just guard this objective, and if they were able to, they could take pot shots at these guys with Meltas. So they were my backfield holders for the game. So, and they're like, oh, well, you spent Melta Spears doing backfield holding. Well, actually, they're 1 point cheaper than Sword and Shield guys, and so, you know, if they're not going to shoot anything, then they can just stand at the back like Sword and Shield guys would do. So that was what they were going to do. And then the Vexilla and Trajan were going to go into this rune the next turn, just to keep buffs on this unit here. Shield Captain would come up in support here, and then the next turn 2, Vexilla was going to come here and homer in. And if these some reason were dead, then the Vexilla could homer in this way. So that was the idea, and I would control this whole part of the board then and have offensive presence in those directions. So basically that's what we did. So I moved my bikes up here, you saw, and then these guys just kind of spread around. And then, yeah, I'm just doing my movement here. So and Bertha kind of moved up here so he could get some line of sight. Flat 3 against some Paladins, always nice to get. And then I take some shots. I think I kill like 1 or 2 guys. So they're so hard, like -1 to wound, -1 damage. Yeah, just a lot of good buffs. So it's basically me and Nick were saying our first like 2.5 turns was like nobody was just wailing on each other and not doing any damage. 2 very hard to kill armies. So, okay, so that's basically my turn. I think I killed like a couple of Paladins or something with all of that shooting, and then that's it. I could have charged if I wanted to. I could have moved further up and made a pretty short charge here, but that's old Darren. I wanted to have everything go in together with the Terminators so that I can get rid of this in 1 or 2 combat phases. That was the intent. So I didn't push ahead, and I was not too scared of the shooting anymore. All right, so push forward a little bit now. So Nick's turn. So what Nick does in his turn is he moves these guys up a little bit. This combination of runes here is a pretty good obscuring from Crossfire here. And he actually decides to charge his Paladins in here, which we agreed probably was a mistake. With a combination of stratagems, he was not able to kill. I think he killed 1 bike here, and that was it. And then I killed some guys in return. My Shield Captain, which is right there, so I decided to stooping die for 3, and I used Trajan on it, so it was free. He did nothing, and that was stupid. I don't think I'm ever going to stooping dive a Shield Captain on a decent unit like that ever again. It's just a waste of time and CP. And I also spent 2 CP on Overwatch on a 5-up. So Overwatch, 1 CP, and then 1 CP on a 5-up. And that, I think I killed 1 guy with that, and that probably wasn't worth it. So that was 5 CP that actually I spent for no good reason. And nothing really happened here. I killed a couple of Paladins. And so now they're kind of stuck in this area, and his characters are open back here. In the meantime, he's dropped a strike squad here to get him that primary, which is great. He dropped that strike squad there and that strike squad there, as expected, to get Linebreaker. So, basically, this melee goes on for a while here until they eventually die. So that's Nick's second turn. And then in my turn, and because I'm OPSEC, of course, I'm good on these objectives. These spear guys here are going to just move this way to take some pot shots and try and kill that unit there, but never end up doing it. But it just made Nick sort of back away, and he also needed a unit here to do the deploy scramblers and that sort of thing. So, so in my turn, I move. That's Trajan and the Vexilla moving up. Trajan doesn't advance because he's going to charge out and help clear these paladins. The Vexilla advances to go as far as he can, and then I end up homering my dudes right there, which is a nice position there. Bertha, in the meantime, has moved to hold this objective, so that trying to force Nick to come this way with the paladins and not this way, because he can't give me this objective, this objective, this objective, and probably this one, because these guys will be OBSEC on here. So I managed to get myself to within a 5-inch charge of this frontline characters, which is this is Drago here. This is Valdis. This is a librarian or an apothecary, and this is the librarian. So through a combination of Bertha and the Aquilon Terminators, I managed to pick off Drago and the apothecary in the shooting phase, which is great because without Drago, they don't get as many rerolls. I think I can't really remember. He had gate. Valdis was the guy with the switching tides, so still had to kill Valdis next, and the librarian was there as well. And yeah, so double shooting on the Lastrum Bolters took out all these guys, and then Valoris comes in here. And all these guys fighting eventually kills these paladins. And then you're going to see the Aquilon Terminators charge in here, make their charge. They kill the other guys, the Apothecary, I think, or the Librarian, one of the other two. And then don't kill Valdis, because of course he's transhuman. He's like -1 damage. He's hardcore 3-up invuln. And he has a 3 damage, no penalty Thunderhammer. So he kills a Terminator, a couple of Terminators, 2.5 Terminators, I think, in response. I was left with 2 Terminators at the end of the game. Just Valdis. And so I'm like, oh man, this Valdis guy is hard to kill. And so going on to the next turn, though, I've got this objective, this objective, this objective, and this objective now. So I've got Nick a little bit on the back foot on primary, but he's still getting 10 points because he's just holding 2 objectives, and he's still got 10 points doing that. So that's pretty good. And then so going forward now into Nick's turn. So yeah, so you see these paladins mostly melt away here. Trajan comes in and cleans up. And then, so now these characters are in trouble. This unit tries to drop in here, and they die or something. I can't remember now. Yeah, so this unit of paladins is moved up here in order to go on Bertha. These guys have moved up here to throw some smites this way. These guys came up here to throw some smites and bolter shots. But I block the Tide Change spell to go to 2 damage smites, which is key. So I block that with a deny strat. And then what ends up happening in this turn is not very much. So these paladins come into Bertha here. And they end up spamming all their attacks, but Grim Responsibility makes him basically very hard to kill with Strength 5 and Strength 4. And so it just takes Nick like 2.5 turns to kill Big Bertha. I just let her there, shooting into combat, whittling down the paladins, and just holding these guys up on this objective here. This strike squad is holding this objective, and Nick is trying to do the deploy scramblers now for secondaries. And then these guys died, I think, just to shooting. And so what you're going to see here in my turn is just jumping forward. Okay, so these bikes come forward. Trajan comes forward to take on Valdis. The Vexilla drops back to hold that objective. These guys are strung out to start picking off these guys. And Bertha's still stuck here. And so eventually at the end of this turn, Trajan comes in here, punks Valdis. Then Valdis fights on death for only 1 CP. And then Trajan bosses 5 invulns and survives. So Valdis dies. The Librarian dies very easily. These bikes now are all here. And then in my next turn, I just get the bikes to come this way and help clean up these Terminators after Bertha dies. And then these Terminators just stay there. Valoris makes an advance and gets onto that objective. So if we skip forward now to the end of the game, basically, I'm on 1, 2, 3, 4 objectives. There's 4 or 5 Paladins there with the Agamatus on them and a Shield Captain coming in. And so yeah, it's basically took a too big a lead to come back from. And that's basically it. Okay, so let's just check the chat before we start to talk about the list. Okay, taking Inquisitor versus GK, Psycho-Heavy armies. Yeah, so I think, like, the thing is, if you take an Inquisitor, just a normal Inquisitor, he's giving you 1, if you take Greyfax, 2 denies against a Psychic-Heavy army. That's really nothing. And that's if you're in the deny range. And it's really not going to help you that much, and it means you cannot take Abhor the Witch. The combo of Abhor the Witch and Assassinate means each character is giving you 8 points. Okay? That is huge. 8 points just for kill a character. Even if you play Marines and they have a couple of Librarians, that's 16 points right there. So that is just a huge combo to pass up for the sake of 1 or 2 denies. So I think it's just too difficult. And if you're playing a 6-round tournament, you can't put your Inquisitor in and out. You have to commit, right? So I think it's just difficult to justify that now. Yeah, so as Nick is already talking about, as I mentioned, the Psychic Ritual was a bad pick for sure. Abhor the Witch is a really punishing secondary for Psychic armies, like really punishing. Do you feel a hybrid on Bertha? No. I don't think... So Bertha probably killed just as many guys shooting in combat as he would have done with punching. And with the hybrid, he would have done less damage shooting. And her only job was to just be tough, right? I think the true job of the Telemon, because even with 2 guns, without the Valoris next to her, it's not that reliable. It whiffs a lot. But that's not really the point of her. She's not there to punch people, because the rest of my army does that. She's there to pop some shots and to be very tough and be a bit of a magnet for shooting, which she is. So I think she serves her purpose perfectly fine with double guns. Reroll wound on that tide. That's why I thought it was reroll all. Lack of experience, blah, blah, blah. I think it's preferable to have a tiny unit, sag, part of their spears. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the list. Okay, so here's the list I ran. Let me just check my notes. Okay. So this list was Trajan, a shield captain on bike with the 2 extra wounds, Auric Aquilus, and he was the warlord with Feel No Pain. And then I had 5 Pyrothite Guardians. I had 5 Aquilon Terminators. I had 5 Agamatus Adrathic Devastator Bikers. And I had the Vexilla just with a Storm Shield and a Misericordia. And Big Bertha with 2 Arachnid Storm Cannons. And that was the list. So it was a single patrol, Shadow Keepers. I'm still big on Shadow Keepers. I wanted to try it. And with Grim Responsibility on Bertha, it took those Paladins 2.5 turns to get through her. So Grim Responsibility is really good. It's like really good. And on Bikers too, Grim Responsibility really good. We already knew that, but this is like from play experience now. So with combo of Transhuman and Grim Responsibility on those bikes, they are pretty tough. They don't get to ignore AP like Terminators do, but they can be extremely tough. And so that works out well. And those bikes are just the same as normal bikers in terms of their statistics. So the things I was trying. So I was trying no CP regen trait. So with Valoris now giving us free stratagem, basically a free Homer, that's 3 extra CP. versus a regen trait, which doesn't give you anything usually first turn, gives you 1 second turn, third turn, maybe fourth turn, and you spam all your CP. So the more CP you spend in a turn, the less worthwhile it is to have the regen trait. So really you're getting 2 to 3 CP from the regen trait. So it kind of works out to the same thing, and you're not relying on a 5-up. So my question was, can I just use Trajan and not have to use the CP trait? So I didn't. And I did not have any issues with CP. I had spammed 5 CP unnecessarily, remember, on Stooping Dive and Overwatch. So if I had had those 5 CP still, it would have been really easy. As it was, I made a few math decisions based on what I needed to happen at the time and what didn't need to happen at the time, which I think you're going to have to do all the time. And so I think if you take Trajan, you don't need to take CP regen. Okay? And I'm sorry, 55-point Inquisitor is better than nothing, but it's not good enough regen to replace the regen trait if you're not taking Trajan. And you can't abhor the witch. So I don't think that's really a solution. So I think you either take Trajan or you take the CP regen trait if you're not taking Trajan. But I don't think you need both. That needs more testing. But that is just what I've been trying to test, and so far that's my thoughts on that. Okay? So that was the first experiment, and that experiment went very well. I did not miss the regen trait at all, and the free stratagem is just crazy. Okay. The second thing I wanted to try out was Trajan, of course. I put Trajan back in last game, and I put him in this game, and with most things wounding on 3s, having the reroll 1s to wound is great. And Trajan went in there and swept up some paladins. He went in there and swept up Valdis. He ended up all the way down at the other end deployment objective. And so I think Trajan is well good. We were very salty today on the Discord about his D3 damage. Nothing we can do about that. But Trajan is really good, and he is your regen trait now. So I think he is a really good take. Okay, the other thing I wanted to try then was the extra 2 wounds on the shield captain. Now, it didn't end up making any difference because he didn't take any damage. And what I'm going to probably do, with the Feel No Pain on board already, I'm probably going to switch to Unstoppable Destroyer and see what shenanigans we can get with that. I can already see a number of situations yesterday where the ability to just consolidate out up to 6 inches in any direction would have been so good, and also would have let him do a lot more instead of having to fall back and stuff like that. So I think So I've already changed my list in version 9.2.2 to Unstoppable Destroyer. By the way, you can see my list pinned in the Custodes channel. It's the Custodes list version 9.2.1. I'll pin the 9.2.2 after the show. But if you'd like to follow along how I develop a list over time, and goes hand in hand with the games you watch and the tacticas I talk about, you can follow along how I develop a list over time. So that's why I pin those lists. I don't pin them because I think they're the best way to play Custodes. We've all discovered recently that actually any way we play is very good, and we have this good chance of winning. So you should play whatever you like. Everything is good, okay? I just pinned the list because some people like to have something to start from if they're just brand new, and people like to follow how I change the list over time. So that's why I pinned the list. I don't pin it because I think it's like the best list in existence. Okay. The next thing I was trying was Aquilon versus Alaris. So I dropped 6 Alaris Terminators to take 5 Aquilon Terminators. They were fine. They worked as expected. They came in, they double shot a bunch of shots, overkilled Drago, but I really wanted him dead, and they didn't shoot anything else the rest of the game. They came in, they killed a Librarian and couldn't kill Valdis, and that's all they did in the game. Fine. Would the Alaris have done any different? Not really. They didn't need their sniping because the characters were in the open. They probably would have done the same, although they would have wounded on 4s instead of wounding on 3s. So there's a difference there. So the reason I switched to Aquilon was for Strength 10, for the mirror match, and for Marines, all the Gravis armor. So there's going to be a lot of T5 3 wound things out there. So I switched to Aquilon for that reason, to wound on 2s. And the -4, which I think is key. Because even to get up to -3, you got to do a CP on the axes. It's all D3, so it doesn't matter. The sniping is the only thing that I'm going to miss from the Alaris. The shenanigans with pollen and stuff like that don't matter as much now because you can't wrap. You have coherency problems. So those shenanigans are not quite as important anymore. And if you have an unstoppable destroyer shield captain, kind of can do some of those shenanigans. So really it's the sniping thing that are going to miss the most from the Alaris. So we'll see. But that's why I subbed in the Aqualung, because I've got meta in mind. I've got Death Guard. I've got Marines. I've got Custodes Mirror Match. I've got Paladins. I've got all these T5 3-wound things that I want to get through more efficiently. So that's one of those things. What's your thoughts on giving the Bannerman Warlord? Yeah, so that's very reasonable. The thing is, I want my shield captain to be as hard to kill as possible, because sometimes I do get him going off doing things, and so I want that feel no pain. But yeah, making your Warlord your Vexilla, I used to do that all the time. Captain Commander on the 1,000 Heroes, I can't remember which one that is, but yeah. If I put the Warlord on the Vexilla, I'd probably give him the Feel No Pain. Either that, or I'd go back to the Heroic Intervention trait, because that's still really good. Okay, so that was the other trial, was Aquilon versus Alaris, and so far, I mean, I've used to play with Aquilon all the time, so I know exactly what they can do, and so that's fine. Okay, Melta Guardians. So, as I said, Pyrothite Spear Guardians are a point cheaper than Storm Shield and Spears, so, you know, for all intents and purposes, the same. For just sitting on the back objectives, then they're perfectly fine at that, and you don't feel like you've paid a lot for weapons that you didn't use. Okay, it would be crap if you paid 20 points more for a Melta Spear and you never used it. That would suck. But they're the same points. Will they survive as long? For sure, especially if they're not being shot, because guess what? Your enemy's too busy trying to kill these things that have been hitting them, right? So we'll see how that pans out, but I'm not sure that we really need a big, all the shield guardians much anymore. We'll see. My job is to try and push new things into people's consciousness, to come up with new things, and for people to try and break the echo chamber of the Discord a little bit. It becomes a bit of an echo chamber where the same opinions are always heard and the same things are always tried. So we'll see how that goes. But so far, I've been happy with these Spear Boys as my only Guardian unit. If somebody comes close to them, they're gonna melt them and they're gonna have Guardian Spears to defend themselves, and they're still fairly tough without the Storm Shields. So I think that I think that's perfectly fine. So I'm gonna keep going with that for now, but I was happy with their performance. They didn't really do much. Okay, finally. Adaga Bikes. So I trademarked that name, Adaga Bikes, which stands for Adrathic Devastator Agamatus Custodian Bikers. But so these guys, we were throwing around for a while when we did the points review, and then I was talking to Yoshi and Devin about it. And after Devin's last tournament, where he ended up playing like a couple Yoshi and like the mirror, we were thinking, 3 damage is pretty good, right? And that's exactly what we need. That's why we run Storm Cannons on Bertha, and that's why we all wish our axes and everything were 3 damage. As we said, T5, 2 up, 3 up save, 3 wound guys are going to be out there a lot. So these guys are strength 6 -3, flat 3 damage shooting, 2 shots. No longer heavy, and they came down, they're like 105, which is 10 points more than a normal biker. So you're going to be constantly comparing these guys to salvo bikes, okay? But the point of these guys is to kill elites, okay? Not to kill tanks. They could take wounds off tanks, especially if you use that strat, but they're being strength 6, they're not particularly good at that. They are to kill elites that are T4, T5, Terminator units, Gravis armor units with -3, flat 3 damage. Wounding those guys on 3s, 10 shots for a unit of 5 guys. So that's pretty good with Trajan around, hitting on auto hitting and wounding most of the time. So that is the meta decision of taking the Agamatus bikes for an extra 50 points over like a salvo unit of bikes. And they did pretty well. They killed a bunch of paladins with the flat 3 shooting. And in combat, they're just as good as bikers are on the charge and just as whiffy as they are when they get charged. They're as tough as normal bikers, and so otherwise they're pretty much the same as normal bikers. The models are longer, like an inch longer, but otherwise pretty similar. And the thing that it really, really appreciated, again, having bikes in my list, was the mobility. Being able to threaten that, get right onto that objective first turn, being able to sit there and hold that objective, be tough, shooting, and then right into opponent's objective the next turn, and then in the final turn, going right across the field to those paladins, getting there, shooting, making a charge, all the way across the field like that. That is something that only our bikers can do. And so having that was amazing. So I think we really could do with that mobility. So I like the fact that it takes our bikers' mobility with a decent weapon, and the weapon being a meta choice. I think if you're playing in a local meta that has a lot of armor, T7, T8, or knights, then I think you run the salvo bikes, right? With the Melta strat, those 5-6 Melta bikes is nice. But if you're facing a lot of elite stuff, like I feel like I'm going to be doing, then the Adaga bikes are a good choice. But yeah, that's the mobility that really gets there, and Grim Responsibility on T6 is really good, and they can always transhuman. So I am sticking with my current list for this week's game against Ultramarines. The only thing I've changed is I've changed the extra 2 wounds commander trait to Unstoppable Destroyer, and we'll see what shenanigans we can get up to. Okay. So, in terms of everything else, so we played like 7 games yesterday. I played one of them, but watched 6 other games. And I think that the edition plays as promised. I think it's about holding objectives. You gotta get your primary. If you're falling behind a couple turns on primary, you may lose. The secondaries are becoming easier to pick now that we understand what they're really about. And so for us, things like While We Stand, While We Fight, Grind Them Down, which is kill more, Recon, actually not that hard to do, especially with bikes in your army, and then things like Assassinate, Abhor the Witch as appropriate. I think those are great secondaries to choose. So there's actually plenty for us to choose. Our army still denies secondaries pretty hard. So people find it hard to take kill secondaries against us. So in the last 3 games, I have lost only 3 units, 1 unit per game. A Land Raider, Big Bertha, and a Guardian unit. Those are the only 3 units I've lost in the last 3 games. In yesterday's game, I lost only 6 models. So with that in mind, you deny secondaries pretty hard, and you sometimes make your opponent do things they don't want to do to get their secondaries. So I think we're in a really good position to play like that, and that seems to be how everyone needs to play. So a great example of that was the last game yesterday, which was Chris Sisters of Battle, mostly infantry but 3 tanks against the Taunar, which at 900 points takes up a lot of the list. There was a Riptide and some stealth suits and a bunch of drones. And basically, Chris was getting blown away, but just holding objectives, playing his secondaries, which were mostly like recon, raising the banners and things like that, and he won. Because you played the mission, you played the primary, and he did eventually, I think, end up killing the Taunar. But that's just like, you just got to play the mission, play the primary, and pick good secondaries that mesh with what you're trying to do. So I think we're in a good position for that, but that definitely seems to be how things are playing out. First turn versus second turn. So let's see. I don't know who went first in Jason's first game, but I think first turn does help. But if you play and deploy smartly, just because you're going second doesn't mean you're going to lose. So like game theory wise, going first probably helps. But just if you're not going first, don't lose heart. Okay, just play the game, and you should be fine. And Definitely, Centurions are still a thing. That's what we learned yesterday. Centurions are still a thing. Those things are still stupid, and the Marines still have lots of rules, and so still watch out for Marines. I think Knights are still very good, and still a force to be reckoned with, especially if you see 3 big Knights and multiple small Knights. That's going to be a thing. They hold objectives very well, and they're in your face and can be hard to kill if you're not ready. Same as before. If you're not ready to kill Knights, you won't be able to kill Knights. And so I think that Knights is going to be a thing. What else? Sisters are going to be very good. Yeah, you just wait. Chris is still tooling up his list. He's still learning the book, but Sisters are going to be extremely good. Marines are still going to be ridiculously good. They're going to be everywhere. They're going to be really good. Yeah, so that's kind of the things that we saw yesterday in our 6 or 7 games. It's going to be a fun time out there. Let's go to chat. So with Bertha being more of a sponge bullet wall, would you possibly switch to accelerators? It depends on the meta. Right now, I want that flat 3 for elite infantry. So I'm going to keep it as it is for now, but we'll see. What do you feel about 2 Vexillas? I just don't feel there's space in the list for 2 Vexillas, and I don't need 2 Vexillas. +1 attack is just gravy. It's not really necessary. -1 to hit is still so good. Next time somebody rolls a bunch of 3s on you, you just think how many shots you could have saved with -1 to hit, right? Especially in combo with denying rerolls. That's super huge. So, yeah, I think the -1 to hit is auto take. That Vexilla is auto take for Homer and for -1 to hit. And otherwise, I think there's not enough space for a double Vexilla anymore. Marines are stupid good. Yes. Aquilons equal ready to kill Knights. Yes. Would love to have a game versus you again once the new Necron Codex comes out, for sure. Phil is going to come over, not this week, next week, and bring all the new Necron stuff over. So that's going to be not this week, the next week after that. And most chapter tactics are getting nerfed. Who knows? I will believe it when I see it. And apparently now they're only allowed to have 1 captain in a detachment or something. I don't know. We missed, obviously we were playing, we missed all the GW updates and streams and stuff, so I don't know what was said, but that would be cool. And so I wonder if they're going to actually do that, like 1 sort of captain type person per detachment, and then maybe announce some supreme commanders. Who knows? So they did announce that the Marine and the Necron book is coming out in October, so it's going to be a few months before they get those books, which is a bit surprising. I thought it would have been sooner, but fine. And yeah, I don't know why anybody is surprised that Marines are the first book, because there's the poster boy of the new of 40K. This is a new edition. Remember, you might think that it's too soon after their last Marine, but if you're a new player, and these are the people that GW want to hook in, then you love Marines right now. So they want the new players to have a brand new Marine book right away. So remember that. Yeah, and I'm scared. Necrons are going to be good. I think they're going to be good. I think Reanimation is going to be retooled and be really good. They're going to be hard to kill, and I think they're going to be punchy. If those Scorpec guys are anything to go by, they're going to be punchy. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to go to the Discord for questions. If you have any more questions on the stream, please type them in. Okay, how do you rate bringing loss of custodian guards in 3-man teams or larger squads of 5? So I think it's fine. Like I said, everything you want to play is fine. If you're on the Discord enough, you hear people winning against all sorts of things with all sorts of lists. I think I've only heard of 3 people who have lost on the Discord. And so whatever you want to play is fine. Okay? Is having a ton of Guardians the best way? Nobody knows, okay? And you'll hear it on the Discord. This is the best, this is the best, this sucks. Nobody knows, okay? Pay no attention to those people. Everything is good, and really it's just an individual match by match or meta decision what is good or better against any specific thing. we're really talking about the difference between something being A++ and A+.5, right? Like, we're not talking about something being really shitty and something being really amazing anymore, okay? We're talking about everything being good. If you have a whole bunch of Guardians sitting on objectives with shields, you're going to win a lot of games just because you can't kill them and they're going to score you a bunch of primary, okay? You can win the game by not killing anything. So do I think that having bunches of Guardians is good? Yeah. 3 shield Guardians is really hard to kill. So if you have 5 of them, that's even harder to kill. So, you know, that's basically the answer to that. 3 Virtus Praetors, 3 Alaris Terminus, 7 Custodian Guards. What unit should I buy next? You probably want more Terminators. So 3 Terminators is probably not going to help you. You need to have at least 5 or 6. So I think buying another box of Terminators is good. You probably want to have at least 9 Custodian Guards so that you can run 3 units of 3 for battalion, just for flexibility. And definitely you want to magnetize those for spears and sword and board. And then definitely need a Vexilla. You need HQs, man. So you need Trajan. And you need Shield Captain on bike, probably. So you need to buy another bike box so you can have Shield Captain on bike, and then that will also take you up to 5 bikes, which is a nice size. And that's all you had. If you had 5 or 6 Terminators, 5 bikes, Trajan, Shield Captain, and a bunch of Guardians, you have a perfectly amazing army right there. So go for that. Play my first... let me see. Play my first 2 games of 9th this weekend. 1 game against Marines, 1 against Death Guard, and you won both. Racked up points because you had Shield Guardians. There you go. Guardians or Sags. So after my experience now with Spears, with Guardian Spears, I think you could easily run Sags instead of Pyrothite Spears. You could run 5 Sagittarium. They're just as hard to kill as those 3 Pyrothite Spear guys are, and they'll put out some shots for you. 36-inch is basically almost the whole field now, and putting out heavy bolters or those Adrathic shots. So I think that's fine, actually. And Shane kind of put that in my head, the whole we don't really need Shield Guardians thing, and I think that's fine. So if your intent was to have a unit that sits at the back, is fairly hard to kill, and can still do something, then I think Sags can fit that bill. I might test them at some point. Min-size squads, sure, run 3 of them then. If you want to run 2 3-man units, then go for that. That's fine. Or like I'm doing with 5 spears, you can run 5 Sags. I think that's fine. Is 3 Shield Guardians not enough to reliably hold a backline objective? I think 3 Shield Guardians is good at holding any objective. Do you think a unit of 9 Alaris is overkill? I have multiple lists that have 8 to 10 Alaris Terminators, and I think that's super fun and quite good. So if you have a list, you have to focus on that as like the main element of your force, right? So for sure, if you want to do that, then fine. And then you could certainly split them too. Later in the game, turn 3, turn 4, split them up, and then they become really hard to deal with. 9 individual Terminators running around grabbing all the objectives with OBSEC. So that is quite cool. So for sure, 9 Alaris is not overkill, and nothing is overkill. It's always nice to overkill people. Bikes versus Venatari. I think Venatari have a role. Their shooting is really good. And obviously they have good mobility. And with infantry keyword, they don't have to go around buildings on the charge. They're a bit wet in combat. But good shooting and mobile. So I think they definitely have a role. I don't think people want to compare Bikes and Venatari just because they both move fast. But you cannot... I don't think you can compare Bikes and Venatari. These are different units for different purposes, and so just comparing them makes no sense. So don't compare them. Run whichever one you want and have fun with it. Don't compare them. Peter is going to run 20 Alaris. Yes, run 20 Alaris, split them all, and you'll probably win a lot of games like that. I can't remember who it was that posted that on the Discord. Okay. Keep the questions coming. I'll keep going back to Discord here. Alaris Terminus versus Agolon Terminus. Okay, we already talked about that. Do you think Warlord trait Lock Warden or Stasis Oubliette would have been more useful on the Shield Captain rather than 3++? No. I think if you intend your Shield Captain or your Warlord or whoever has the relic, the Lock Warden relic, warlord trait, if you intend that person to go character hunting, then fine. Keep in mind, a shield captain is not super great at killing decent characters. They'll kill guard characters. I've in fact had them not kill guard characters. But anybody with a decent invuln, you easily not kill them. Because you get 2 or 3 through and it's D3 damage. And any beefier characters, you're just going to die. So I don't think that Lock Warden helps with that, and I don't think that that's the right way to play a shield captain on bike. I think the shield captain on bike is best as a turn 2-3 moving up behind, and then later in the game is you are unable to deal with him. So I think that's the better way to play a shield captain. So I don't think Lock Warden plays into that. Stasis Oubliette that's the half attacks on a character. Yeah, okay. I think that's very situational and not really worth a relic slot. 3++ is just too good. I mean, 3++ is too good. It's too good. And that's why I said right before we even saw our book, whatever relics come out, they got to be better than 3++. All right, so, okay. Do you think an elite army meta or a vehicle meta would give us a harder time? I think actually vehicle meta would, because we need to try and punch them. Yeah. So elite army, as we already talked about, the whole list is tooled against elite armies. The vehicle meta would be harder. Given people starting to run hordes or offset bodies again already. Okay, which did you find more important in your game, durability or mobility? Both. Both. And you can't have both. So don't pick one. Have both. Durability, mobility, killing. In that order, I think. But durability and mobility, close 1 and 2. Okay, how do we best counter armies like Nurgle demons where everything's resilient? Multi-damage. So actually, the normal bolters are pretty good because they're 2 damage. So things with feel no pain, 1 wound, 2 damage, better than 1 damage for sure. So just the normal shooting is good for that. But flat 3 for like those Terminators and stuff, yeah. So that's one of the decisions we made for the Agamatus bikes, was for things like Death Guard. And people saying like Plague Bearer spam is dead is certainly not dead. People also said Grey Knights is dead. They're certainly not dead. Okay. And nobody knows what's dead because nobody's playing. How do you rate taking some source of CP regen if you're not taking Trajan? Yeah, so if you're not taking Trajan, you have to take the CP regen trait. That's all there is to it. You cannot do with no CP regen. No, you will be out. And our power is in CP. So if you're taking Trajan, you don't need CP regen, I don't think, which we're still trialing, but so far, that's the conclusion. If you're not taking Trajan, you need commander trait CP regen. Do you plan on trying out other shield hosts? Yes, but not right now. I don't want to flip around too much. I got to go through the process and refine. Do we need more Guardian squads? No. We already talked about that. Sagittarium Guard, we talked about Sagittarium Guard. What would be the first thing you tell a new Custodes player to get adjusted? That's a great question. I think I think somebody coming in completely fresh to Custodes will be super happy. They'll be able to play whatever they want and how they want and still stand a good chance of winning. So I would tell a new Custodes player that it's a new edition, a new book. There's no meta right now. Just pick the models you want to play and go play it and have fun. That's what I would tell a new player right now. Would you take a Telemon over 5 men of Melta Spears? Well, I already have a Telemon. Would I run a second Telemon? No. First of all, I don't have a second Telemon. And I think, remember that the Melta Spears give you infantry. They can do a lot of damage with the Melta Strat. And also, they can do actions. So I think that is better than running a second Telemon. Yeah. I know some folks making lists with G-Man. How about a patrol with Guard and Creed? I don't think Guard gives us much that we don't that we need. So People are running G-Man because it doesn't cost you anything to bring G-Man other than his points, and in fact, it gives you 3 CP. You would have to spend CP to bring in guard, and it's just not worth it. I think you mean that. Okay. Anyway, don't know. What are the thoughts around the redeploy relic? So we talked about that on the stream yesterday. And so the redeploy relic is good. I mean, anything that lets you redeploy is obviously good. Is it good enough for a CP as your second relic? Because you're not going to spend that as your first relic. You're spending a 3-up invuln. Sure. I mean, a CPE does a lot of things for you these days. If you look at the game yesterday as an example, and most games that I've played for a long time, I don't need to redeploy because I would deploy that way regardless. So we need to play more games to see whether redeploying becomes a thing that we need to do. But if you set your game plan and you deploy like you want to do your game plan, whether you go first or second, then I don't think you need to redeploy. And they'll say, well, if you mess up, then it'll save you. Well, sure. But why don't you learn not to mess it up instead of needing a relic to save you? That would be a better lesson to learn rather than depending on having a relic to save your mistake, right? It would be better for you to make the mistake and lose and learn from it and get better at deploying rather than using the relic. So that's not a good reason to run the relic, just in case. So yeah, it would be better if we could redeploy more units, but I don't know. I'm not sold on it, but I can see why people think it's good. I don't think it's bad. I don't think we really need it. Yeah. Okay. Do you think bikes or whatever variety are going to be auto include for us, or can other high mobility units like Venatari be a fine alternative to fill in the mobile firepower? Well, as I already said, I don't think you can compare the two. There's firepower is pretty different, and so I think you just pick what you want to pick and use them. And if you want to pick both, then use both. I think actually like 3 or 4 Venatari as a little surgical drop-in unit would be pretty sweet if you have the points for that. But we run out of points really quickly, so you want a couple of good-sized hammers, and then if you still have the points, you could certainly do that. So you could say, in my list, instead of running Bertha, you could run like a max unit of Venatari. And that would be a really fun list to play. Now you have 2 very mobile units, lots of shooting, and decent combat punch, and yeah. So I think the Venatari is still a little bit more fragile than all our other stuff. There's no denying that. But it's that would be a cool little list. Just take my list and remove Bertha and put in a Venatari unit. It just so happens that I cannot play without Bertha right now because we have to enjoy the Telemon while it's good. The Forge World book could nerf the thing into the ground and we'd never see it again. So play it while it's good. So I ain't dropping Bertha until it becomes boring or until she gets nerfed. Yeah. Well, I'm not saying Venatari are over fragile. I just think they are more fragile than our other units, just by virtue of the fact. Okay. Cool. Any other questions, guys? So the schedule for this week is out. Tomorrow night, I think me and Nick and Francois will be streaming Deathwing again. A Doctor's playing Deathwing, if people want to tune in for that. Tuesday night, we've got podcast episode 186. We will be talking about yesterday's games, more from a general perspective for me and Chris. And we will also be talking about this Travis Steven app. And then Wednesday, we have Francois over with Ultramarines. I believe he's bringing G-Man. I'm tempted to bring a G-Man Custodes list so G-Man can fight in the middle. But I'll probably just bring the current list I'm playing now. And then it will be long weekend break. And then after long weekend, of course, next week we're going to have a full schedule again. So here you go. Have you been list building with the new points? Yes. I don't think there's any point list building with the old points. Running Telemon next game. I hear good things about the Cestus Arachnus loadout. Yeah. So I think all the loadouts are good. I think what loadout you take on the Telemon depends on what's in the rest of your army. So it's not this is better than this. Like with everything that people are discussing these days for Custodes, everything is good. You just take what you need. So if you need something to just shoot, then just shoot. Don't worry about getting tied up in combat because you can shoot your way out of combat. Okay. you just if you need shooting, you just shoot. If you need to punch, then just go punch. I generally think that the rest of our army is good at punching. We don't need a Telemon to punch. But if you want to run 3 Telemons that are all punchy for fun, then go for it. Like that's cool. So actually, in terms of usefulness, depending on the rest of your list and the meta you're in, those are always the disclaimers. I think personally, double gun is slightly more utility than double fist, and so if you want hybrid, is good too. It's just the thing is, if you're running hybrid, you're not punching anything first turn, but you could be shooting twice as much. Second turn, maybe you're still not punching anything, and now you still could be shooting twice as much. Third turn, maybe you're now going to be punching something, and you're only shooting the normal amount. So for the first 2 turns, probably you're getting half the amount of value that you could have had with the hybrid, or with the double gun over the hybrid. So if you think of it that way, if you're going to deep strike your Telemon in for the extra CP to do that, and you're not running punchy, you're running hybrid, then that's kind of a waste too, and then you're missing a whole turn of shooting. So yeah, so I think it's just like, Fire Drake runs Samael and Talon Master. So the whole premise of our community here is to run pure Custodes. So we don't really talk about soup much. I don't think Custodes needs to soup now, especially now. In the old days, we used to do it just to be obstinate, but we certainly don't need to soup now. You can soup, though. There's nothing wrong with souping. You're just giving up CP for no good reason, really. So yeah, Talon Masters are going to get nerfed because they're way too good. So Joe Sweet, I'm using it to screen the Vexilla. Yeah, it's a good use. Just trot it up. But you don't really need to screen the Vexilla if the Vexilla is near all your troops. But you can. You can certainly run it up beside your characters. But yeah, so like you said, if you're doing that, so for the first 2-3 turns, maybe the game you're not using the fist, so you're shooting half of what you could be shooting. Okay, Brandon Stone, don't from the light a Telemon can testify. Sorry, I'm not sure what that means, but yeah. Okay, guys, so stay tuned for a busy week this week. Thanks very much for watching. After this show, I'm going to go straight to my computer and I'm going to upload the information about the shirts. So do get on that if you want one. And yeah, that'll be it. So thanks very much for watching, guys. And we'll see you tomorrow night.